The Hendersons were a well-off couple who lived in a quiet suburb in Georgia. John Henderson was a corporate lawyer, known for his strict routines and punctuality, while his wife, Melissa, was a successful interior designer who worked from home. They had 2 young children, Emma, 7, and Jake, 4. Their house was modern, full of expensive decor, and always had the scent of lemon polish lingering in the air. Keeping the house in pristine condition was no easy task. Between work, school, runs, and managing clients, Melissa and John decided to hire a maid to help with the cleaning. After searching online and asking for recommendations, they found Clara James, a 46-year-old black woman with glowing reviews and 20 years of housekeeping experience. Clara came to their home for an interview, wearing a neat blue uniform and holding a small notebook in her hand. Her hair was tied back and she carried herself with calm confidence. She greeted them warmly and answered their questions with quiet professionalism. Though Melissa felt a bit unsure at first, Clara didn't speak much unless asked, and Melissa was used to chatty help. John felt Clara was perfect. She was reliable, neat, and came highly recommended. Clara began working the following Monday. She arrived every day at 8 a.m. sharp, wearing the same clean uniform and always carrying her little notebook. She moved silently through the house, dusting, vacuuming, and organizing things so thoroughly that even Melissa couldn't find fault. She rarely made conversation unless spoken to directly. The children grew fond of her, especially Jake, who would trail behind her with questions like, "What's that?" or "Why do you clean under the sofa?" Clara would respond patiently, occasionally giving him a smile or a short answer. Everything seemed perfect until one Thursday afternoon. Melissa was out shopping. Clara was finishing up cleaning the kitchen when John came home early. Clara greeted him politely, as she always did, and returned to wiping the counter. John grabbed a soda from the fridge and walked past her, nodding in response. But as he turned to leave, something odd caught his eye. One of Melissa's rings, a diamond-studded piece she had worn just yesterday, was no longer on the kitchen windowsill, where she often left it while washing dishes. He said nothing at the time, but that night, when Melissa returned, he mentioned it. "You sure you didn't move your ring?" he asked casually. "No," she said, frowning. "I always leave it there when I do dishes." "Maybe you moved it." He swore he hadn't touched it. The next day, they searched the kitchen but found nothing. That evening, Melissa noticed something else missing, a pair of pearl earrings from her bedroom vanity. That was when suspicion began to take root. Melissa was the first to say it aloud. "I hate to even think it, but Claire's the only one who's been here. She's the only person who has access to the whole house during the day." John hesitated. "We don't have proof." "I know. But first the ring, now the earrings. What if she's taking small things, hoping we won't notice?" John didn't want to accuse anyone unfairly, especially someone like Clara who'd never shown any signs of dishonesty. But Melissa was firm. "Let's install a hidden camera," she suggested, "just for a week. If she's innocent, fine. If not..." Reluctantly, John agreed. They ordered a set of discrete cameras online and installed them over the weekend. One was hidden behind a decorative vase in the living room, another near the bedroom hallway, and a third inside the study, which held John's expensive watch collection. They didn't tell Clara anything. By Monday morning, Clara arrived as usual, unaware she was being watched. For 3 days, the footage showed nothing suspicious. Clara worked methodically as always. She spent more time than necessary folding the towels, even aligning their edges. She wiped down already clean counters and rearranged the pantry with military precision. Melissa, watching the footage in the evenings, grew more frustrated. She's too perfect, almost like she's trying to cover something. Then came Thursday. Melissa sat down after dinner to review the footage. At first, it looked the same as every day. Clara cleaning, moving from room to room. But then, at 11:47 a.m., Clara entered the master bedroom. She bent down near the vanity, seemed to hesitate for a moment, and then reached underneath it. Melissa's eyes narrowed. "There, look. She's taking something." But as the clip continued, Clara stood up, holding something in her hands. It wasn't jewelry. It was a small, dusty envelope, the kind Melissa used for cards. Clara opened it carefully and inside were a few crumpled bills and what looked like a folded note. Clara unfolded the note, read it slowly, then looked around nervously. After a moment, she carefully placed everything back inside and slid the envelope back under the vanity. Melissa's brows furrowed. What is she doing? John joined her, and together they watched as Clara sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't touch anything else. She just sat there, holding her hands in her lap for almost 5 minutes. Then she stood up and continued cleaning. Curious, John paused the footage and went upstairs. He got on his knees and looked under the vanity. Sure enough, there was the envelope. Inside were 5 $10 bills and a handwritten note. The note read, "For the days when you feel unseen, you matter. From someone who knows." John stared at the note, stunned. When he showed it to Melissa, she didn't say anything for a long moment. "I put that there," she finally admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "Back in college, my roommate was depressed, and I told her if she ever needed hope, I'd leave her reminders like this around the house. It must have gotten packed with my things when we moved." John looked back at the paused image of Clara on the screen. She didn't take it. She looked sad and tired. The next day, Melissa decided to confront Clara. She waited until Clara was nearly done with the day's work and invited her to sit in the kitchen. Clara, clearly surprised, sat down slowly. Melissa took a deep breath. "Clara, we thought you might be taking things from the house." "I'm sorry, but we installed a camera." Clara's expression didn't change much. She sat still, hands folded. "I saw you with the envelope," Melissa continued, "and I saw the note." Clara nodded slowly, looking down at her hands. "Wasn't going to take it. I was just reading it." Melissa leaned forward. "Can I ask why?" Clara exhaled. "'Cause some days I feel like I don't exist to people. Like I walk through houses and clean up other people's lives, and no one sees me. I'm just background. That note, it made me feel like someone somewhere sees me, even if it wasn't meant for me." Silence filled the kitchen. John entered then, holding the camera footage in hand. "Clara," he said gently, "we saw everything, not just the note. We saw how you helped Jake when he dropped his juice and didn't tell us because he was scared. We saw you fix the broken vase and glue it back together so we wouldn't worry. We saw you leave a bag of groceries by our neighbor's door." Clara looked surprised. "You never took anything. You only gave," Melissa said quietly. Clara smiled a little, blinking away tears. "I don't have much. But if I can do small things for people, things they won't notice, but still matter, then maybe I've done enough." The Hendersons sat silently for a moment. That evening, they made a decision. The next morning, they handed Clara a white envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a handwritten note from Melissa. "For the days when you feel unseen, you matter. Not just to someone, but to us. Thank you for everything." Clara's hands trembled as she read it. But there was one more thing. Melissa placed a second envelope on the table. "This one," she said, "is for your daughter's college tuition. We did some asking around. You've been working extra jobs to help her get into nursing school, haven't you?" Clara's face crumpled with emotion. "Oh," she whispered. "Then let us help," John said. Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks. For the first time in the many weeks she had worked there, she let herself cry. Not because she was tired, not because she was hurt, but because she finally felt seen. News of what happened spread quietly through the neighborhood. People began looking at their help differently. One neighbor, who had once avoided even making eye contact with his cleaner, began offering her tea. Another wrote thank you notes. A few started asking how their maids were doing, not just in work, but in life. The Hendersons didn't share the footage. They didn't post about it online. But the hidden camera, which they had installed to catch dishonesty, had instead captured something far more powerful: the quiet dignity of a woman who gave without expectation, loved without condition, and stayed honest, even when no one was watching. They had fired the maid in their hearts before ever confronting her. But what the hidden camera captured changed everything. Not just their minds, but their hearts. From that day on, Clara was no longer just a maid in their house. She was family.